Hello, and welcome back to another edition of Anki's Cooking, But Is It Edible? Today we're going to cook a chocolate chip cookie, a classic. Now what makes this particular recipe different is that it follows the traditional model of making it. All the other chocolate chip cookies that I have tried in all my attempts had a bit of something missing, but this one always hits the right spot, and it tastes like a real chocolate chip cookie, not a keto one. As you can see, these are the ingredients, and you can see in the comments below all the specifications of what of each ingredient needs to be in the recipe. So let's get to it. We're going to have butter that's softened, not melted, softened. Best is if it's room temperature. And we're going to mix some sweeteners. For this particular recipe, I have a monk fruit brown sweetener and allulose. Obviously, you can add any sweetener of your preference or your choice, as long as you include the brown one. That's the key of making this the real chocolate chip cookie. So what we do, we put the ingredients together and we mix this with a hand mixer for 3 minutes. And again, I'm going to use my little trick of adding the 3 minutes on my phone to keep myself on track. So let's get started. Three minutes is on. Now you want to make this very, very fluffy. We have our 3 minutes done, and the mixture is very nice and fluffy. We need to now add an egg, and I need to stop my 3 minutes and mix it well. So now we're going to add an egg. And you usually want to, when you add an egg, to keep it at a lower speed. Or at least until the egg is nicely blended. You can increase a little bit of the speed later on. Now we have a very nice and creamy texture of the dough. Now we're going to add some vanilla. I usually use organic vanilla, and just a cupful is plenty. It will give it that nice contrast to the chocolate chips. All right. I wanted to make sure I use everything. There's not a lot of waste of the materials. So we have a very nice fluffy mixture in which we're going to add the dry ingredients. So I have here almond flour and baking soda. And I'm going to slowly add first about 1/3. And mix it well. And gradually add the rest of the almond flour. I always try to combine the almond flour with either baking powder or baking soda in advance and have it ready. And then mix the two of them, so because almond flour can clump up, and that helps adding the baking powder or the baking soda and mixing it reduces the clumping, as well as mixes it with the soda or powder very, very well. And now it's starting to look like a traditional chocolate chip cookie dough. Excited. I do like to stir it a little bit more just to make sure that all the ingredients blend well. The butter with the almond flour and the egg. You can, if you want to, give it about a minute or so of rest before you actually put it on a pan and bake it. That works well as well. And now we add the chocolate chip. Now, I don't have a chocolate chip available on the market, readily available or easily accessible in the market where I am right now. So what I do is I take a chocolate that has no sugar in it, a very high, low sweet, not a milk chocolate, and then chop it up to little pieces, like so. In this particular case, I've used Whittaker 92% cocoa from Ghana. It's a very dark, intense chocolate and has no added sugar to it, and adds a very rich flavor to anything you make with it, even if you melt it or chop it up into chips like this. So I've improvised due to the lack of having chocolate chips available, and I'm going to stir that in now into our dough. I have noticed that if you do chop it up, you have to bear in mind that the chopped up like this might melt a bit more than the actual chip, chocolate chip. So it will lose its shape and size, and it will melt into the cookie, and that to me adds a bit more flavor and it makes it a bit more chocolatey. So I always, whenever I can, I actually prefer having sugar-free chocolate chopped up rather than having ready-made chocolate chips. But if you have options, feel free to use chocolate chips. That looks pretty ready. And it does look really a lot like chocolate chip dough. So now, I'm gonna put this and scoop it out into a pan. So we've already made a pan. We put a bit of parchment paper and put a little bit of, or just have a parchment paper stick to the pan. And there's usually two options that I do. The small, I use ice cream scoops in this case, and the small one and the big one. Now the big one can be quite big because when you make them, they do tend to spread out as well, so you can have very big chocolate chip cookies. So if you really want these, if you want the big size, go ahead. But I will use a bit smaller one for this particular instance to make them a bit more bite size. And it's very simple. Scoop it up, leave some space in between, because as I mentioned, they will spread. And it doesn't really matter if it's not a perfect shape. Having them in different sizes and shapes gives them that homemade feel and homemade touch that we're aiming for. You can, if you want to, use a bit of spoon and just flatten them out a little bit. There's different ways to do it. You can bake them for 2-3 minutes and then do this, so you can do that before you put them in the oven. So we preheated the oven to 180 degrees Celsius. And now we're going to bake them. Now they're in the oven, and they're going to be baked at 160 degrees for 7 to 10 minutes. Can't wait for you guys to see what comes out. And now we take them out of the oven. Nice and golden. Now when they come out of the oven, they're very, very soft. And we need to let them completely cool in order to start tasting. So we're going to leave them for about 30 minutes to completely cool. And this, I'm sure that you noticed, this is the second tray of the cookies. So we're going to leave them to cool and taste them. Yay! Right, the moment of truth has come. We've got biscuits ready for you. And let's see if they like it. So we're going to break it. Look at that chocolate. Which piece would you like?
Any piece is fine.
Oh. And the chocolate says it all. These are really good. Well, thank you for watching. And please make sure to post comments. How do you like this video below?